Sadness. Difficulty concentrating. Loss of interest. Depression can be treated. The first step is talking.
Welcome to Healthy Cleveland. I'm your host, Leah Haslage, and today we'll be discussing winter weather preparedness. With us is Shadi Swade, who is the project director in the Office of Emergency Preparedness for the Cleveland Department of Public Health. Welcome, Shadi.
Thank you for having me.
And Kaylee Collins from the Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center will be doing our American Sign Language interpretation. Welcome, Kaylee. So, it's that time of the year again. I mean, we've gotten pretty lucky so far, but we know that the temperatures are going to be dropping once more and getting even colder, and the snow is going to be falling like crazy. So what can we do to begin with to prepare our home?
Absolutely. So as you said, winter is coming. Getting ready for winter in your home means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but there are a lot of standard things that everyone can do to prepare your home. Now is as good a time as any to check your smoke detectors, check your furnace, make sure that all the equipment in your home is operating properly, just making sure that your windows are sealed, that everything is ready should that winter weather strike kind of unexpectedly as it is known to do.
Is it too late to insulate?
It's not too late to insulate. It's never too late. It certainly is a great time to think about those sorts of things that maybe you've been putting off for a while, knowing that winter in Northeast Ohio is rough sometimes, and so it's never too late to take some of these precautions.
Now you're saying equipment. Some things that people like to use this time of year are space heaters.
Yeah.
And so how can we utilize those properly?
So a lot of people do like to use space heaters in different rooms of their home. I would always encourage people, there are both kerosene-powered and electric-powered space heaters. A lot of the electric ones are usually safer. A lot of times they'll have a shut-off feature that if you forget to turn it off, maybe when you go to work in the morning or something like that, it'll shut itself off. The kerosene ones can be tricky. They can spark a fire, and whether you're using any kind of space heater, it's always good to make sure that you're keeping it away from drapes, away from clothes on the floor, just putting it in a location where it's not going to spark or tip over or catch fire. If you have young children or pets, you don't want them to get too close to it as well. So taking those kinds of precautions when you try to warm your home.
And with that, what about if you have a fireplace?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of people have both wood and gas fireplaces. I guess knowing how to use that equipment before you use it is always a good example. But making sure that you're taking the precautions, that you're not leaving it on when you're out of the house. Maybe you going shopping, or you leave it on when you go to work. It's nice to come home to a really warm house, but a lot of times you can risk smoke damage. You can risk all kinds of things that come with leaving that equipment running.
Same with candles.
Oh, absolutely. Candles, I know we all love to have candles, and they smell great, and it's nice. Creates a nice ambiance in the home sometimes, but they are really dangerous, and they are really something that you want to use kind of sparingly if you need to, and again, making sure that they're out of reach of children and pets and things of that nature.
Is there anything we can do to prepare our home that we maybe wouldn't think of? Are there any kind of...
Sure. I mean, I guess as I kind of said off the top, this is always a great time of year to make sure those smoke detectors are working. Checking the batteries, making sure that they're current. If you have questions, one of the things that I think people don't realize is a lot of times your local fire department can come in and they'll help you check your smoke detector. They'll kind of evaluate, hey, I want to put this space heater here. Is this a safe spot? I know that those folks are great public servants, and it's certainly someone that you want to reach out to, the fire department in your neighborhood, and I'm sure they'd be happy to come into your home and kind of help you evaluate what you're doing.
City of Cleveland does offer free smoke detectors, so if you contact our Cleveland Fire Department,
absolutely,
they can help you as well. And then carbon monoxide detectors?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure you're not exposing your family to those kind of fumes as well.
So you said to me prior to this, there's a kit that everyone should have. What is this kit that we should be keeping in our home?
Well, I think a lot of times during the winter you may lose power. You may be without power in your home for several days on end, or you may have power, but you may be stuck in the home. You may, we get feet of snow at a time and ice on the roads. And although our road crews do a great job of clearing that as quickly as possible, you may want to just kind of hunker down at home for a few days. And so it's really good to have things in the home that should you not be able to get out for a few days, you can survive. The kit kind of begins with non-perishable food items. Things like crackers and peanut butter and canned food, things that if you didn't have power or if you couldn't get out to get food, that you could subside on for a few days. Another great thing to have in your kit are blankets and sleeping bags. If you do end up without power and you want to stay warm, that's another great way to kind of snuggle up with the family. If you have children or if you have pets, or you want to be aware of any special needs that they may have, special foods for your pet, or if you have babies that maybe use formula, making sure you're stocked up on formula, bottled water, flashlights, all the things you kind of traditionally hear in an emergency kit. Great to have those in this time of year in your home as well.
And a non-electric can opener.
Yes.
I was guilty until like a year ago of having an electric one.
Sure. And actually you bring up a great point about that. Batteries and chargers. Obviously we all are kind of tethered to our iPhones, but having extra batteries, having extra chargers, making sure those devices are charged up in advance of a weather storm or a winter weather storm. One of the things I always do when we know that it's going to be potential for severe weather, whether it's winter weather or any other kind of weather, is making sure my phone is charged, making sure my laptop is charged, all these sorts of things so that we have those power sources when we need them.
Now, what about outside the home?
Sure. Well, I guess you definitely want to make sure that you have some basic items to shovel your driveway or some kind of rock salt or something like that to spread on your sidewalk. If you are going to be getting out of the house, making sure that you're able to do so safely is always important.
Now, preparing your car.
Yes.
What are some of the basic things that we can do right now to get prepped?
Sure. So in the same manner that you may be stuck in your home during a winter storm, you may end up on the road somewhere when a winter storm strikes, and you may have to stay in your car for a few hours or may get stuck in traffic or things like that. You certainly want to have a lot of those same items in your car, things like batteries and power sources, flashlights, bottled water. It may freeze in your car this time of year, but if you're stuck in your car for a few hours, certainly it would be nice to have a few bottles of water there to kind of help pass the time. Things of that effect. Another thing that you can have in your car, also rock salt. You may find yourself in a place where it's icy and you need to get out. A really great tip that I learned kind of I unfortunately had to learn a couple years ago was I was in an area where my wheels were spinning on the ice and I couldn't move, and I actually took the floor mats out of my car and used those to create traction to drive over so that I could get off the icy part and onto a dry part of the road.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Not to mention, of course, a good ice scraper. I guess who in Northeast Ohio doesn't have one, right? But you definitely want to have a good non-destructible one in your car.
All right, when we come back to Healthy Cleveland, we're going to discuss traveling on the road in your well-prepared car. So stay tuned for more Healthy Cleveland.
One in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation.
America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Got a quarter?
Welcome back to Healthy Cleveland. I'm Leah Haslage, and we're discussing winter weather preparedness. With us is Shaddy Swade from the Cleveland Department of Public Health's Office of Emergency Preparedness, and Kaylee Collins from Cleveland Hearing and Speech is performing our American Sign Language interpretation. So now we've got our car prepared, and we're heading on the road.
Sure.
What can we do now to take precaution and be ready for anything?
Sure. I would say that the first thing you want to do any morning, no matter where you're going, is to take a look at that forecast, especially in Northeast Ohio. We have kind of that east side, west side divide, and we have lake effect, and a lot of times the weather can be very different in one part of the city than it is in another part of the city. My job takes me oftentimes anywhere from Elyria to Ashtabula, and so driving those roads in between, making sure that you know where you're getting into. If it's going to be snowing in an area where you're not, where you don't live, making sure you're just kind of knowing what you're getting yourself into.
And with traveling, you had said earlier with preparing your car, you can make sure you have a scraper and salt. Anything else besides the weather?
And I guess knowing the roads as well too. As we said, our road crews in Northeast Ohio do a great job of clearing the roads. But when the snow happens, oftentimes other roads get prioritized, and so always kind of having an alternate route in mind, knowing that if something happens and you can't take the way that you know to go, making sure that you have using your phone or using maps ahead of time, just kind of knowing where you're going, so that if that road that you usually take is affected by severe weather and you need to take an alternate road, just kind of being planned and prepared to do that.
Well, it's no secret to most of us Clevelanders, but dressing in layers is a key thing, because you never know what the temperature is going to be throughout the day.
Sure.
But obviously with winter weather, we're looking at very cold temps, sometimes in teens and single digits.
Yeah.
So what are some things we can do to prepare ourselves for that, and why?
And it's not just the cold, it's the wind chill as well. That we get a lot of, especially around downtown Cleveland. If you're around downtown Cleveland a lot, there's a lot of wind and a lot of things like that to deal with. Making sure that you're dressed in layers. We always advise people, it's much healthier and much safer to be dressed in multiple thin layers than it is to kind of wear a heavy layer or two. If you get warm, you can kind of remove or add layers as need be.
A Christmas Story?
Yeah,
Can't move my
absolutely,
arms.
yeah. And also kind of protecting your extremities. Wearing hats, wearing gloves, scarves, things like that. I oftentimes kind of feel silly walking around wearing sunglasses when it's not sunny out, but I feel like protecting your eyes from the wind is also a big deal. Those winds can really pick up and can really kind of catch you off guard.
Yeah, and what if you think you're having frostbite? What are some signs that we can look for?
Definitely, if you feel numbness and tingling or anything that, I think we all kind of know our own body's limitations, and if you feel anything unusual that you think might be related to the cold, take it seriously. Go have yourself evaluated at a emergency room or an urgent care. Certainly, don't take the chance of it developing into something worse.
Now, having a family plan is always really important. And for winter preparedness, what should the families be doing at home?
Sure. Well, I guess when it comes to any kind of preparedness, whether it's winter weather, anything like that, we always refer back to a program that's called Ready in 3. And Ready in 3 has 3 parts. So having a kit, which we talked about earlier, having a plan, and listening for information. When it comes to you and your family, sit down and talk. If you have children, if you have maybe your parents around, friends, neighbors, things like that, have an idea of, hey, if this happens, if we lose power, or if we get separated, or if the weather affects us and we can't get together, what are we going to do? Where are we going to meet? What are kind of the rallying points? Who's going to pick up the kids from school? Who's going to take after the dog? All those sorts of things. So during an emergency is not really the time to be having those conversations. Now is the time to sit down with your family and just talk it out, especially if you have young children. They're going to be confused. They may not know who's picking me up from school or that sort of thing. And so as a family, sit down and talk about, hey, if we have a major snowstorm or if we have a severe weather event, here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to handle it.
Now, kind of to tie everything together,
sure.
Let's re-go over some of the top 5 major tips you think everyone should have for winter preparedness.
Okay, absolutely. So number 1, I would say winterizing your home. Again, all the things we talked about in terms of having supplies and making sure that everything in your home is up to standard and up to equipment. That's a big one, number 1. Number 2, preparing your car in case you're out and about and need to have that sort of protection and all those preparations in your car. Number 3, your personal preparedness in terms of your weather, your dress for the weather, all those sorts of things, and making sure that you can handle the elements when you're out in the elements. Number 4, I would say having a family plan and making sure that you're communicating with your family what you need to do. And I guess number 5, to kind of tie it all together, just be informed. Just pay attention to the news, whether it's however you get your news, whether it's traditional TV news, Twitter, Facebook, however you get your news for the day. Just kind of stay on top, because the weather can change dramatically. In a matter of hours, we may be predicting feet of snow and we may get less than an inch. So just kind of make sure that you're always on top of what the latest developments are.
And where can we get more information?
Absolutely. So one of the great things you can do is to check out the CDC's website. They have some great fact sheets and some great infographics at cdc.gov. If you just go in there and search for winter weather, there's a lot of information there. And we'll link to a lot of information from our website as well, the Cleveland Department of Public Health.
Well, thank you so much, Shaddy and Kaylee, for being here today on Healthy Cleveland, and thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you get your family and your home prepared for this winter, and for more information, like you said, check out the CDC website as well as TV20cleveland.com. I'm Leah Haslage. Thanks for watching.